So, what would you do, or how would it affect your vote, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed Donald Trump? Is that a possibility? There have been some weird rumors here and there about RFK potentially going with the Kamala Harris camp, that he would endorse her. There was a phone call between Trump and RFK where both of them seemed very friendly with each other, and that Trump seemed to genuinely be interested in having an open dialogue with them. um, and then this came out. Here's an interview that Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s VP pick, she was being interviewed on impact theory, and here's what she has to say.
Rumors going around that RFK was in talks with Trump, that he was in talks with the Harris camp for a potential endorsement to either of them if they could give him, I presume, a spot in one of their cabinets. Is there any truth to it? Would love to hear about that.
Definitely not in talks with Harris. Definitely never have brought up this idea of an endorsement with Harris. Definitely have never brought up a cabinet position with Harris. So those are the MSN just taking something and spinning it in a way that makes their chosen political group look good. Fake news. With that being said, we have offered to talk to everybody about what your policies are, who's going to be in your cabinet. Do you want to hear any of our takes on policy and what might work? We've open sourced our platform very proudly. And I will say that Trump has taken genuine, sincere interest in our policies around chronic disease.
So I think two things that were pretty interesting to begin with. She flatly said nothing has happened with the Harris campaign. So any rumors that were out there, and I think that was specifically MSNBC and CNN that were trying to float those rumors out there to potentially scare the Trump campaign or maybe sway RFK Jr. voters to the Harris campaign. I'm not exactly sure what the benefit would be there because I couldn't see RFK Jr. ever endorsing Kamala Harris or Biden for that matter because they were the presidency of lockdowns, of mandates, of everything that has caused us so much pain in the last 2 years or almost 4 years. And then it sounds like Trump is very, very open to dialogue, listening to people, better understanding what they're thinking about and how they are feeling about what's going on in the nation, which I think everybody should be that way. And it's nice to note that the RFK campaign is very open source about their ideas and willing to talk to people and sharing ideas. I think open discourse and dialogue is the best idea for every campaign.
He takes it seriously. For that reason, I think it behooves us to sit and see if we can actually make some real change. And if that is a unity party, I think that it is something that we absolutely owe to the American public to explore.
What would a unity party look like?
I think it would be on day one making sure that our health, the arm of the government responsible for health, HHS, is directed by someone we can trust, someone without ties to big pharma, someone who understands the foundations of and preconditions of healthy life, somebody who is not going to sell out our children to profiteering.
Okay.
Now that would be tremendous. I've mentioned before that I think putting RFK Jr. in one of those positions would be really good because RFK seems to be genuinely anti big pharma. That he's always been very concerned about the state of our children and everybody in that regard, for how much we're being poisoned or being injected with toxins either through the arm or through the mouth. There's so much toxicity in our foods nowadays. It's crazy. There's a lot of the foods, virtually any food that you go to the grocery store that's not a whole food would be illegal in Europe, because there's so many chemicals that are put into our processed foods that those specific chemicals have been banned in Europe, specifically because they are toxic to people. But in America, I guess it's okay. But yeah, I think it would be great for a little bit of unification in the country, and it'd be really a benefit to the Trump campaign, because it would show that he is a unifier and Kamala's not. So just for optics, it would be really beneficial for Trump. And if that put RFK Jr. in a cabinet position or something near that, I think that would be really beneficial for the goals of RFK and Nicole Shanahan. And I think Nicole Shanahan in a position similar to that would also be good, because it seems like she's very concerned with food freedom and health and safety of our country.
Okay, when would you guys make that decision? There's obviously huge concerns that you guys are a spoiler candidate, and so I understand there'll be a public-facing message, but I'm very curious how you guys think about that.
We did not start this campaign. I did not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $1,000,000 to win, to fix this country, to do the right thing. I will say that Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have unfortunately turned us into a spoiler. And we don't want to be a spoiler. We wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot. The DNC made that impossible for us.
It is quite interesting that she's specifically saying it's the DNC that has been preventing them from getting ballot access, and for making them more of a spoiler campaign rather than a logical, or not logical, a viable campaign. And to me, that really shows the fear of the DNC having toward RFK Jr. That they're afraid that the nephew of JFK could possibly win, and if that happens, what would happen to the interesting bedfellows of the DNC and Big Pharma and Big Food? It's an interesting thing to think about.
They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl, pledged an allegiance to. And that is not where we are today, and it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And I am so disappointed I ever helped them. I am so disappointed that I helped Chuck Schumer in that Georgia runoff secure a majority. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life.
Ouch. I'm assuming she's talking about Raphael Warnock, his Senate run in Georgia. But it could have been the other one. I'm assuming that was also the 2020, or was it 2022? Might have been 2022 runoff. But anyway, she sounds like a very repentant Democrat. That she is upset at what has happened, and she's gained a little bit of understanding of how dirty politics is. And your friends one day become your enemies the next. Politics is horrible in that regard.
And it's really devastating. So to answer your question, we are not spoilers. That was never our motivation. We really wanted a fair shot. I think had we had a fair shot, we would have won. I still would love to see the last 80 days of this election some miracle play out where we get a chance to debate. I don't think they're going to let us. And, given this, I think we are taking a very serious look at making sure that the people that have corrupted our fair and free democracy do not end up in office in November. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard, Tom, to say these words because it's also acknowledging how bad things are.
Yeah, it's hard to hear the words. Do you guys see any path to victory at this point?
I mean, technically, if we can stay on the ballots, we've qualified for all the ballots now, which is like an enormous feat. Like you don't understand. The system was designed to, after Ross Perot, to keep this from ever happening again, and we accomplished it. So technically, we could win. We could absolutely win still. The problem is if you censor a candidate as we've been censored, people don't get a chance to even hear us. There are things that could happen that would still allow us to win in November, even in this environment. And it could, you can't predict the number of variables. But as long as we remain on the ballots, we could win. The question is the risk of a Harris Waltz presidency worth us staying in?
Now, that is an interesting thing to think about. Are they really? I think they're right in thinking, well, we've been censored so much that it's virtually impossible for us to win, thanks to Google and Facebook and the rest of big tech preventing them from doing so. Also, the lawfare sucking their coffers dry, preventing them from getting their message out. I would be shocked if they weren't more palatable than the Biden and Harris campaign. Because me, as a conservative, I've kind of thought about RFK myself because I care about food and medical freedom. So much so that I would be willing to entertain RFK Jr. But if they're unlikely to win, then I'm unlikely to vote for them. And that's the same mathematics that everybody else gives. Because they've been censored so much, because the lawfare, the lack of Secret Service, causing them to spend their own personal money on private security, that's taken a toll on their campaign. So they're only sitting at 3, 4, maybe 10% in some possible states. But if they weren't being throttled so much, I could easily see them being in second or even first place in the polls.
And that's the question we have to ask ourselves right now is, one, do we trust Trump and in his personal sincerity to really do the right thing for our country and chronic disease, balance the budget, end these forever wars? Is he somebody that's going to continue to invite people like Bobby and I into the conversation? Or is he going to fall victim again to the things he fell victim to in his first administration? So we're weighting it all. It's not an easy calculation. We want what's best for this country first and foremost, and it is, you know, it's an interesting place to be. I won't lie. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
No, I would have to agree with her again. Trump's first time around, he made some really poor choices. He actually had a conversation with Bobby Kennedy when he was first in office, and he was planning on using Bobby to try and get to the root of some of these medical related issues that we've had in the country. And very shortly thereafter, Bill Gates went in and talked to him. And according to Bill Gates, he set Trump straight and made sure that Trump did what he needed to. And Bill Gates is not exactly the best guy in the world. Just saying. Yeah, I won't even go into Windows. But yeah, Trump made some really poor choices. That being said, I think he's the type of guy that's more of a, if you screw me once, I'm not going to let you do it again. So I think that this next time around, or I hope this next time around, he's going to have realized who the snakes are, and he's going to make sure that they are kept very far away from him. He won't be giving positions to people like Mike Pence, people like Bill Gates, people like Pompeo, people like John Bolton. And you could go on and on with the amount of bad picks that he had, because he had quite a few. He did have some good ones. But again, at the very beginning of his administration, he had people taken from him like Michael Flynn. Anyway.
As somebody who understands that we're connected to something bigger, that spirituality and politics are intertwined, what does your gut tell you about how this is going to play out?
You know, this election is so important, but so is the 2026 governor race in California.
Mm-hmm.
And my gut tells me that sometimes you need to go to the source of where all of this stuff is coming from. It's coming from right here in California. It's coming from the influence Silicon Valley, Hollywood has had on the Democratic Party. It comes from this idea that you can manipulate people with lies to get their votes. It comes from this lack of accountability that just seems to continue to spiral.
So Mark Grobert, he was a reporter for National Lampoons, but he's somewhat connected to the Kennedy family. He's familiar with them. He's been around them a little bit, and currently he's doing a podcast called what is it called? America's Untold Story, which is a pretty interesting podcast where they've talked about the Chappaquiddick incident with Ted Kennedy, the assassination of JFK, a lot of episodes of the assassination of JFK, because there's just so much to that story. It's pretty crazy. And they've done just lots and lots of different stories. But every Friday, it's more of a free-form conversation. And there have been a few times where Mark has said, Bobby needs to drop out yesterday and get into the governor's race because he can win that easily because he's a Kennedy. And California needs a good governor because Gavin Newsom has been so bad. And Gavin Newsom can't be reelected. So it's an open race. So that would be interesting if I guess he has two good options. Trump's cabinet or some role therein, or the governor's race. Or if the governor's race is in 2026, do the cabinet position for 2 years and then do the governor's race. That's actually not a bad idea either.
And I think that what my gut tells me right now is that we just have to keep being honest. I got to just keep being honest. I got to keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November. And if that means that we stay in, and there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party. 71% of Americans want a strong third party.
The problem with that is there already is a strong third party with the Libertarian Party. There's also the Green Party, which is kind of strong. They're on quite a few ballots, or ballots on quite a few states. I think the Libertarian Party has ballot access on all the states. They just need good candidates. Sadly, this time around, the Libertarian Party picked probably the worst candidate they could, and they might lose ballot access on in quite a few states. It's too bad. But yeah, I don't. Oh, that's a horrible place for me to pause that. Is that better? All right, Sam. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, a strong third party is a great idea. Love the idea. We already have one with the Libertarian Party. If she wants to have a strong third party, she needs to be involved with the Libertarian Party. Yeah, you can have another one, but I don't think their party this time around is a good move for a strong third party. It's personal opinion there.
Real shot at winning. There's even public funds available if we get over 5% of the vote. So we could get, I think it's like $13.5 million in public funds to keep the party going. And that's, that's worth something. That means that we can position for a real third party election in 2028 where we don't have to go around and spend tens of millions of dollars on ballot access, which means that we can spend all of that time and money campaigning. So, there's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump.
I find it hilarious that she keeps going back to, if we stay in, we might get Kamala, and that's the worst thing in the world. I think that's awesome, personally.
Or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. Not easy.
Clearly.
Yeah, not an easy decision.
Now, are you saying that if you did end up deciding to back out, that you would run for governor, or you would back somebody for governor?
Oh, you caught onto that piece, huh? I don't know yet. I think that I'd be happy to support somebody great to run for California governor so that we can nip this dynastic lineage in the butt, uh, I would consider running as well. I I want to be involved in California. I think, we're the sixth largest economy in the world. We have every opportunity to get this right. We produce a third of the produce for the rest of the nation. So all of the policies I care most about really do apply to California directly: innovation, AI, farming, clean water, water systems, efficiency of government, efficiency of cities, clear border policies. Well, closed border. It's not that. This is not rocket science. You just got to close and manage the border.
Wouldn't that be nice?
When that
That's an interesting thing to hear from someone. I would say she's from the left because she supported very liberal Democratic candidates and causes previous to this campaign. And again, RFK is not exactly a conservative. He's a liberty-minded liberal, something like that.
be simple and nice and straightforward for all of us. And then, you think about immigration policy differently too, and there's ways to do that at the state level. So I think that we could model California brilliantly as the shining example of how to bail out of the catastrophic state the nation is in right now. We just model California for the rest of the federal government.
All right. If you guys did end up teaming up with Trump for a unity party, what role would you play? What role would RFK play?
I am not in talks with Trump. I just want to make that clear. So it would be, I could envision a situation in which Bobby goes and he does an incredible job with, for example, HHS. And Human Health Services. It's oversees a massive portfolio of budgets, over $1 trillion budget. It really has far reach. So I think that Bobby in a role like that would be excellent. I fully support it. I have high hopes. And, just in my personal life, I'd love to see the state of science go uncensored and uncorrupted. I don't want my child to be subject to this anymore.
And this being the censorship, dehumanization.
Yeah, and the misstating of what's actually happening. Like there's all of these great researchers who want to do the science, but they can't. There's all of these clinicians that want to speak the truth, but they can't. They actually can't. They will lose their licenses if they speak outside of the central scientific paradigm.
And how do we stop that?
There's
burn the system to the ground. Maybe not.
I mean, it's so simple. Government stops colluding with big pharma. It's really simple. And it doesn't cost any money. That's the best part. It's both good for the economy, saves money, and allows people to access the information they need to live healthy lives.
We've covered a lot of ground. What message would you want to leave to the American people, whether you are staying in the race or going out? I imagine there is a simple idea you want people to hold on to. What is it?
Go independent. Join the 51% of Americans that have released themselves, freed themselves from the gridlock of this two-party thinking. You will find yourself happier. You will find yourself more honest with just your needs and your wants and things you're seeing. You invite back critical thinking. And guess what? You're going to make a lot more friends. It's just a happier state to be in. And you can vote for whoever you want. And you can believe what you are experiencing through your own lived experience. So invite back critical thinking. Go independent.
I love it. Where can people?
All right. So that was her interview that has sparked kind of a firestorm on Twitter. And here is Trump's reaction when he was asked about it today.
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mate said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
So yeah, if RFK is up for it, sounds like Donald Trump is up for it, and we might get a more of a unity ticket, which would be that much better for the nation. I would say. I'm excited with a little bit of fear and trepidation because it seems like the nation's just in such dire straits that we need some good news, and I think a unity ticket like this would be the white pill that everybody needs at this point in time. Anyway, that's what I've got on this one. If you'd like to like and share and subscribe, that would be great. I'm trying to get up to 500 followers or subscribers on YouTube. And if you're watching me on Rumble, that's awesome too. It's the free speech platform. We'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.